This episode of The Doctor's Corner was brought to you by Next Generation Day Camp, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Hi, my name is Andrea Harris. Are you looking for a safe, fun, and reliable summer camp? If so, consider Next Generation Day Camp in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We serve ages 3 through 14, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. through 6 p.m. We have two locations at 1809 West Accent and 2127 West Garfield Avenue in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Join us by calling us at 414-921-8108 or check out our website at nextgenerationdaycamp.com. Bye.
Well, hello, podcast listeners. Welcome to the Doctor's Corner, where we acknowledge this nation's military and veteran population and encourage nationwide literacy. I am your host, Dr. K, a proud United States Navy veteran and mother to an Army Airborne U.S. soldier. Today, we're going to introduce you to a resource specifically designed for individuals who have served this country. But first, let me explain to our first-time listeners a little bit about the Doctor's Corner podcast show. Generally, on the TDC, we strive to mitigate two nationwide issues, veteran suicide and adult illiteracy. On this show, we highlight veteran resources and conduct literary reviews, literature authored by veterans or literary compilations critiqued by veterans. Either way, we promote 100% veteran awareness and hope to help you determine your next compelling read. Today, our featured veteran resource is brought to you by Attitudes and Attire out of Dallas, Texas. Our guest, Corena Mitchell, a 16-year United States Army veteran, continues her gift of service as the program director of Boots to Heels. Corena is a Mission Continues Delta Class 2017 fellow alumna and platoon member and active volunteer for her communal family at eQuest with Equine Horse Therapy. Before we get started, Corena, on this show, we love our veterans and appreciate their sacrifice. So, before we venture into the nuts and bolts of Attitudes and Attire, let's acknowledge your service. Thank you, and thank your husband for your service to this country, and thank you for joining me today and participating on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity.
You're very welcome. So, please share a little bit about yourself to include your military experience.
Okay. I am a 16-year Army veteran. I grew up a military brat. My dad retired from the military, and when he retired, we moved to Dallas and made Dallas our home, and it just wasn't the same for me, so I decided to join. It was a great career. I got to do a lot of things, a lot of traveling. My last deployment in Iraq, I met my husband over there. Well, we didn't start dating until after we returned home, but we ended up at the same duty station and ended up dating, and he retired. I did 16 years and decided it was time for me to get out. I worked so much with the military in the Army that my daughter was 2 years old and had never said mommy.
Aww.
When I got out of the military, I was unaware that I had PTSD. And so I had basically suffered in silence for a long time. Mm-hmm. So we came back to Dallas. His civilian job sent him to Afghanistan for 18 months. During that time, we had our second child. I went through the whole pregnancy, delivery, everything by myself. So add undiagnosed PTSD and anxiety to postpartum depression and dealing with always being independent and never having to ask anyone for help to all of this stuff. So I eventually became very suicidal. I attempted suicide twice. And during that time is when I learned about the Mission Continues. I was scared because I was isolated. I only went to the store late at night until some man followed me and scared the mess out of me. So, it was leave the house unless I had to. I went back to school full time because I couldn't bring myself to work. And that was the only thing that I could find. Through being in school full time, the lady that was currently the program director of Attitudes and Attire Boots to Heels, I met her at my college and she invited me to Boots to Heels. I didn't know what it was, but something in my heart told me I needed to be there. So when I got there, a Navy veteran who was retired from the Navy, she shared her story. And when she shared her story, it was the first time that I cried. It was the first time that I realized that there was something wrong with me, but I wasn't alone, and that it was normal, the things that I was going through, but I had been suffering all these years, and silently through them I got so many military resources, and I found out about the Mission Continues and became a fellow. The Mission Continues is a nonprofit for veterans as well, and so my internship was with eQuest, and that's how I ended up volunteering there. But I'm not an outdoors person. I'm scared of animals. I'm scared of snakes. I'm scared of bugs. I just don't do outdoors, and I don't do animals. So when I went to eQuest to interview, something in my heart just told me that that's where I needed to be. And it's always been the most peaceful time for me and my children. Me and my children, we still go pretty often. And my daughters, they ride horses now. And it's just, I ride horses now, which is huge.
Wow. Yes.
But it was amazing. So was volunteering at eQuest, volunteering with the Mission Continues, because I had found my passion. I had found something to get suicide thoughts out of my mind. And as I'm doing this, I'm meeting other veterans, and they're sharing their stories of what they've been through, that they too are suicidal or have attempted suicide. And so I started volunteering. The more I learned about like military sexual trauma and the things that a lot of women had been through, it made me reflect back on my military career and how I now realize a lot of women that I was working with had most likely been sexually assaulted and just not reported it.
Sure.
That's where my passion came for female veterans, and so I started volunteering at Attitudes and Attire, and the position opened up, and I was asked to apply for it, and I was like, oh no, well, the executive director, Lynn Berman, she reached out to eQuest for asking if they had anyone they would recommend. They said me. The lady who's leaving Attitudes and Attire said me. And then she reached out to the city impact manager for the Mission Continues, and it was my name. So I have the honor and the privilege of working with female veterans now and military spouses to help them with something that I needed help with. And I say all that to say I have a very strong passion for it because I suffered for so long without knowing how to get help. I could tell anyone else where to go for help, but not myself. That's how all of that came about.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing and your transparency. There may be some veterans today that are listening that really needed to hear that message of not alone. So thank you so much for just being open and disclosing.
Thank you.
That's huge. So we talked a little bit about dad serving and then you being the child of a military family. So was that your motivation for serving in the U.S. Armed Forces?
When my dad retired and we made Dallas home, he's a Dallas Cowboys fan, and that was his only reason. But when we made it home, I encountered racism for the first time, and I didn't understand it. And I had experienced a little bit of it in the military, but nothing like I had experienced once my dad retired and we made Dallas home. And I just didn't want to do it, and so I figured go back to what I know.
Sure. Tell me about it. What was your experience with racism?
I was working as a cashier at Tom Thumb, high school student, 16 years old, and sodas like Coca-Colas were on sale. And it was a limit of 4, and the guy had like 10. And I told him, I was like, I can give you 6. I can't give you all 10. And he went on to tell me that's why the N-word this and the N-word that. And him and his wife was shocked too. And I just couldn't believe it. The school I went to, there was only 34 black students in the whole school. Same thing. The students were racist as well as the faculty. It was difficult, and I wasn't used to it. So as soon as I had the opportunity, I left.
Yeah, I don't blame you. And you were only 16.
I was only 16, and stood there shocked. Like, I don't understand what it had to do with you seeing these huge limit 4s,
Okay. All right. Whew. Okay. So we talked about you hadn't heard your 2-year-old say mommy.
Yes.
That's a whole nother point. A lot of non-veterans do not realize the depth of the sacrifice that a service member makes when they serve their country. I recall being on deployment for about 3 months, and my sister had dropped my son off for me at the daycare center. So the day that I was supposed to pull back in port, I was supposed to go pick up my son and surprise him. Well, he's about 7 months now, so that means I left him when he was 4 months. So he hadn't seen me in 3 months. But I went to the daycare center and, they welcomed me back, and I went to pick him up and he started crying like, who are you, lady? And see, in my mind as a young service member, I don't know, in my early 20s, I was like, hey, I'm your mom. This is not an option. So that component right there, that was a whole nother matter or psychological matter that need to be dealt with. But yeah, when your child doesn't recognize you because you're serving your country, that's something that should be dealt with, and it should be dealt with in the military at various stages of a military member's career, and it should be dealt with mentally, physically, and emotionally so that we're not broken. And if we are broken, the time should be invested in us so that we're okay as we transition.
It was hard. The hours I worked was ridiculous, and I was never there. So she just didn't know me, and it was hard.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for giving yourself a second chance and making it through and being able to do this show with me. All right. So we talked a little bit about your transition from the military to the civilian sector. What did that look like to you?
Oh, I thought it was going to be easy. I have all the experience and I work hard. I'm a team player. Oh, this is going to be a breeze. It was not.
That's the shocker for military people right there.
Yes, was not at all. So my transition was different. And my husband, he retired, so his transition was different than mine because I just ETS and got out. But my husband was very well taken care of. And the more I speak to more female veterans, I realize that we're not taken care of. A lot of the times we're not taken care of the way men are. So basically, our out process, I remember them telling me that I had a blood disorder, but no big deal, don't worry about it. So I didn't until my hair started falling out and I couldn't find a job. I didn't go through these resume writing classes that my husband went through. I was like, what? They're sending So I stayed at home. I've never been much of a drinker, and I became very depressed. I started drinking heavily. The first 2 years out, I didn't work. I didn't do anything. The first 2 years that I was out, I don't remember. Like, it was just a black time for me. I would get up long enough to comb my daughter's hair for my husband to take her to daycare while he was headed to work because I got out before he retired.
Right.
And there was no dinner when he got home and things like that. And I can vaguely remember one time him telling me he was disappointed in me and I didn't understand. So it was just a really dark time. And I was having like physical ailments as well and dizzy spells and stuff where I would be on the floor for hours and I didn't know what was wrong with me. I just thought something was wrong and I never talked about it. So that was hard. And our last duty station was in New Jersey. So we were still in New Jersey. But let me back up. So about 2 years after I got out, I used to process ID cards in the military at one point. So he took me to the ID card section and basically told them she needs a job, blah, blah, blah. And so they hired me. Well, I ended up working in the DD-214 section, processing DD-214s. And I loved it. But when my husband retired, I'm the one processing his DD-214, and he have a plan. His phone rings as I'm processing his DD-214 with a job. Like triple his pay and, you know, just this amazing dream job. And once again, I'm thinking, what? How? So that happened and he got this job. He travels like 90% of the time. We see my husband maybe 5 days out of the month. So that's why we decided to move back to Dallas because I had no support system in New Jersey. So we moved back to Dallas and, so I let that job go, came here, struggled finding a job. I was about 4 months pregnant with our second daughter. Struggled finding a job, just decided, you know, I'm going to stay home with this one and do things differently. So about 1.5 years in, I knew it was time for me to start working. We had purchased a home and we needed help financially. So I got a job at a temporary agency and I'm doing like the HR, the payroll and things like that. Stuff that's my passion. And the other people in the office didn't like me because I was a team worker. If I see you struggling with something, why wouldn't I help you? And I know this system and things like that. Well, it wasn't taken very well. It was something that I eventually learned. But, and probably because my first civilian job was still with the military. This was my first job as a true civilian. So I struggled there. I absolutely hated it. And, I got laid off, and that's when I decided to go back to school full time. And that's when all of Attitudes and Attire and nonprofits came into my life, and that was my transition. It It's been 9 years now. And
wow. Well, I can definitely relate to you, Corena, on that. Getting out of the military was a challenge for me as well. And you know what? I think I may kind of investigate that and see if males that are transitioning from the military are better accommodated during their transition, because that may be something to actually look into, because my struggle was real. And I think that's why this podcast, this network, Veteran Network, is my passion, because it's hard. And I will never consider myself a civilian. I am a United States Navy veteran. So if you're talking about me in the workplace, just say that veteran over there. And I don't get the process of thinking when it comes to non-veterans. And this is just keeping it real, you guys. Just like you said, you are team oriented, you are mission driven. It's like once you get your objectives, you go for them. And in the civilian sector, it's competition. It's crabs in a bucket. It's like you're working so hard for recognition, or, they don't see it as, I'm just trying to get this mission complete, and I think that's the disconnect. But yes, I encountered some of that interesting behavior too when I joined the civilian sector. So my struggle was real too. So it's good to know that, we made it, Corena. We made it. We did it. We did that. As many obstacles and challenges that were against us, we did it. So I commend you. I thank you for being another face that looks like mine that made something happen, So tell us a little bit about Attitudes and Attire. I can't wait to hear it. And where was it for me when I got out?
Yeah, so Attitudes and Attire. Well, I'll start with founder and executive director Lynn Berman. She had always worked in the nonprofit world, and she had a vision because one of the nonprofits that she volunteered at, they would dress the men and the women, and she saw that the women needed more. Not to say that men don't, but she saw that the women needed more needs. Like, yeah, I put this nice suit on them, but if we don't work on fixing the inside, they're not necessarily ready for work. So that's how Attitudes and Attire was initially started, through that vision. And we empower women, but basically we dress women from the inside out. And this goes for all women. I run the Boots to Hill, which is for female veterans and military spouses, but we do this for all women as well. Basically, you come to a 2-day workshop. Day one, we work on the inside. We work on loving you, empowering you, releasing some things that we haven't released yet. And the Boost to Hills program, I love it because you're with other women veterans and you're able to share things. We've had women share MST stories who had never even told anyone that they had been sexually assaulted. But just to be with fellow comrades who understands more so than went through is very powerful. So you come through there, we focus on self-esteem, self-care, which is things we know kind of, but we weren't necessarily taught. That someone says, do you have low self-esteem? Oh, no, my self-esteem is fine. But if you were to work on it or teach someone else how to do it, how do you? How do you do that? So we focus on that. We focus on boundaries, how to communicate properly. I stay very transparent, which is difficult because you don't want people in your business like that. But if someone hadn't showed my story, I honestly don't believe I would be here today. Mm-hmm. So I always share my story no matter how difficult it is. And I feel like me starting off sharing a part of my story kind of opens the women up to be more comfortable to share with their story. And not all women talk, which is fine. When I went through as a client, I did not talk. I didn't share anything, but I was crying on the inside. I was listening. I was taking it in. I was taking notes. So day one of it, we work on that. And it's like some women, when they come in there, their head is down and they just look depleted. And by the end of day one, like their heads is up, their shoulders is back, like they're a different woman. Yeah. Happy. And then we go into our boutique. We have an amazing boutique. Sizes 00 through size 32. We have some for everyone. But they get to go shopping in our boutique for professional clothing with the image consultant. They have to try it on and ensure that it fits properly, and they get an interview outfit because we're preparing them for work. They get their interview outfit. If they need pantyhose, a slip, a belt, whatever, we provide it all. Day 2 is our resource day. We do resumes. We do a personal finance class. It's so important to, even if you're starting from the beginning, I don't care where you are, I can take the same finance class over and over again, and I learn something new each time I take it.
Absolutely.
So we do a personal finance class, and then I have a lot of nonprofits come in and speak to them. There's so much out here for veterans and their families, and we just don't know about it. I would have never thought to look for Wounded Warrior or Attitudes and Attire or eQuest. eQuest is free for all military veterans and their families, and it's sports therapy. Who wouldn't love doing that? So We have all these nonprofits come in and share what they do and what they offer and just take notes, pass out cards. It's kind of overwhelming, but in a really good way.
Sure.
They'll also do an interview prep class for them as well. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of that day, they get shoes and handbags to match their interview outfit that they got the first day. And then we have day 3, which is always on a Saturday, where they get to come back and they go shopping for a minimum of 10 items. Or outfits, I should say, but this is more of business casual and weekend wear clothing. We get amazing, beautiful clothing, and we basically give them a certificate and celebrate them for finishing our program. And at that time, we have another program called Hopeful Smiles. They have missing, broken, or damaged teeth within their smile line. We have a dental program to help get their teeth fixed, because how can you have that confidence and that self-love if your teeth aren't right?
Wow.
So they have to volunteer with us for 20 hours, and they pay a $25 fee for like their blood work and things like that. But that's it. We had one lady, after she did her 20 hours, we couldn't get rid of her. She kept volunteering. So we knew she made her dental appointment, and it happened so fast. Like within 2 weeks of her first appointment, she had a mouthful of beautiful teeth. So she walks in, like she leaves the dentist's office and comes directly to us, and she walks in smiling, and we did not know who she was. And
wow,
she said it like the tears, like I completely broke down. Like I just could not believe how beautiful she looked, how happy she looked. Like it completely changed everything about her. And I'm getting emotional now. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
But it was so amazing, and you see it happen all the time. So working the 20 hours, sometimes the women get frustrated, but it's just part of the process. And I mean, it's permanent teeth. It's not like something, that's not going to last but a couple of years. It's amazing. So
do you know, if I could have participated in such a program, I don't know where I would be right now. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm sure, God made my journey, but I'm listening to Attitudes and Attire, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I am happy to be the medium to help get this information out there. So women veterans, if you're listening, we're going to tell you a little bit more and tell you how to get in touch with Corena and her program, because this is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. How would a veteran or a woman veteran get involved with this program? What's all needed and required for this program? I want to get involved. Look, I want to do something. I'm already out, but what can I do? Okay, let me not get so excited.
Come and observe the workshop. You can spend one day or both days observing it or participating in it, or anyone that would be interested in coming. You're more than welcome to. But basically, I just sign you up. Just email me or give me a call, and I sign you up. All I need is your full name, phone number, and email address, and I give you the dates we have available and email you a confirmation.
So all it takes to get involved in the program is for someone to send you an email, name, address, and that's it?
That's it.
There's no fee?
This is absolutely free.
For all female veterans?
And military spouses, yes.
And military spouses?
Yes, we include the military spouses as well.
That's amazing. Okay, so tell me what a successful veteran enrollee. Now, is it for maybe active duty members that are transitioning? Could they take advantage of this?
Yes, I actually get a lot of women who will travel from like Fort Hood. I will get referrals from them. It's something I recommend, and I think that it's amazing because it prepares you for, like, I still have friends on active duty, and I'll tell them, like, hey, you're going to go through this is going to happen, and they do not hear me, like, I know they won't understand until they get out. I think the women who come in that are still on active duty are the most impacted.
Sure. And so you assist those that are transitioning. You assist veterans that are already out. And what about reserve? You assist those?
Absolutely.
Members as well?
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me what a successful veteran enrollee looks like.
A woman.
In a nutshell. Okay. Yeah. A successful enrollee would have a job at the end of it, maybe?
Yes, that's our goal. Thank you for that. Yes, that's our goal. We have someone that comes and does interview prep and everything that, like all the people that come in and speak, they're not selling anything. These are all free services. But we have about 3 different employment people come in that are strictly for veterans. and their spouses to help with jobs. And I also get a lot of job openings or referrals.
This is an amazing resource. Amazing. So I have a veteran to veteran question that I typically ask every veteran that participates on the show. You ready for this one?
Uh-oh, yes.
All right. I ask all military veterans who participate on this show this one question. I tell you the fact that the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs reported 6,000 veterans a year in 2019 are taking their own lives. We all have dark places, which you and I can attest to. But what would you say to a veteran that may be in a dark place right now?
That they're not alone, that there's a lot of us going through it. And I believe that they have to come out of it so that they can help the next person, just as I have.
Okay. And if there is a veteran listener that has transitioned or getting ready to transition and want to participate in the program, can you tell them again who, what, where, and how do they need to do it so that they can be a part of this amazing program that you offer?
Yeah, so Attitudes and Attire has a website. It's attitudesandandAttire.org. And you can find me through there, or you can email me at Corena, Corena, at attitudesandandAttire.org, or just give me a call, 214-746-4218.
And if someone wants to donate to the program, how would they be able to donate to the program?
If anyone is near a Bib and Tucker's Cleaners, you can donate anything there and just tell them it's for Attitudes and Attire. They'll give them the tax form. Or we're located inside the World Trade Center in Dallas. And so we accept donations from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m., Monday through Friday.
9 a.m. to 2 p.m., Monday through Friday. And what is the address of the World Trade Center?
It's 2050 North Simmons Freeway, Suite 181, Dallas, Texas. And anyone that struggles with transportation as well, as we're right on the train line. When you get off the train at Market Center, it's a 4-minute walk to us as well for people who are struggling with transportation.
Is there anything else that you would like to add or share with our listeners, Corena?
No, I think that's everything.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me today on the Doctor's Corner.
Thank you, Dr. K. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
You too.
Well, listeners, this wraps up another episode of the Doctor's Corner. Please be sure to share this episode with others, especially if you know them to be veterans. Be sure to like this episode. Why? Because we like you. And most importantly, don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss the next episode. You can find us on Spotify, TuneIn, Radio Public, iTunes, or wherever you choose to download your favorite audio files. To advertise on this Veterans Network, please email thedoctorscorner2018@gmail.com for more information. Stay safe and remember, reading is still fundamental.